Wow, it's just like real life, man. What the?
Have you ever wondered how video games are made? For the majority of you, probably not, but I'm sure as gamers, a lot of you have seen this logo pop up every now and then in some of your favorite games. And maybe you're wondering, what is it? Either that or you do what most people do and just skip it to get right to your game. In my case, here's a little story time. When I was growing up, I would always be fascinated by how games are made. So when I got to that really important part in life, you know, deciding what you're going to study for the next couple of years in your life, I decided to go to college to study game development. In that course, we were taught how to use Unreal Engine. And oh, what's that? The logo I talked about like 20 seconds ago? So I think—
No! You are dead!
Now, Unreal Engine, if you couldn't put two and two together, is a game engine. What is a game engine, you ask? Well, a game engine is a software framework primarily designed for the development of video games and generally includes relevant libraries such as a level editor. The engine terminology was akin to the term software engine. In short, game engines are the building blocks for games. They help make the development process easier, allowing developers to craft whatever they want. They're akin to the Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve for your video, the Clip Studio Paint to your drawing, the Blender to my animation. It used to be more common that game engines were built in-house for companies. This also made it harder for the average person to get into game dev.
What the f—
Unless you already had some background in programming, as there weren't many easy to understand public game engines at the time.
I don't get it.
Then, later down the line, companies like Valve made the Hammer editor for public use, which was a fairly easy to understand method to make custom maps for games on their in-house engine, the Gold Source engine, which, if you didn't know, was used to make Half-Life 1. Insert scientist screaming sound effect.
with the microwave?
People who learned how to use the Hammer editor would then start to get an understanding on game design and level design, which could be used to then help them push into the games industry. Later on, more publicly accessible applications became available for people to use and learn. Some of the most notable ones like Game Maker, Godot, Unity, and of course, Unreal Engine. Now, most likely you know Unreal Engine 5, or for short UE5, as the engine that made Fortnite. But what you might not know is UE5 was initially UE1, shocker, I know, and developed back in 1995 by the now Epic Games CEO, Tim Sweeney, who every time I think of that time when he sent a stern email being mad at Valve, and then Gabe just replies, "You mad, bro?" Back then, the first UE was used to make the game Unreal back in 1998. Just look at those graphics. Wow. Then, further on down in the timeline, Unreal Tournament 1, 2, and 3 came out, all the way up until Unreal Engine 3, which released in 2007, where from then on we saw some of your favorite games, like Gears of War, Rocket League, Borderlands 2, and even the Batman Arkham Trilogy games. So you can see the engine is starting to pick up pace with its popularity, and on top of that, a lot of the games released on UE3 had some very unique styles in terms of gameplay and art direction. But remember, it did have competitors within the game engine market, such as the Source engine, which was released in 2004.
I want you to have it.
Or maybe you're better than everyone else and you use Scratch as your game engine, the clear and cut king of game engines. There's also Unity that was released in 2005, but it mostly blew up around the mobile games market, and it didn't really start to pick up popularity in the console and PC market until the 2010s. Now, if you watched my last video, you might remember I mentioned not wanting to talk about Unity versus Unreal Engine at that point in time. You're not having that conversation right now. Well, we're here now. Also, if you enjoyed that video and you like this one, it would be amazing if you considered subscribing and maybe turning on that little bell. It really helps support me with growing this channel, as this is just a side hobby, and I'd love to be able to put more time and resources into making these videos and animations. Anyway. In 2014, Unreal Engine 4 was released, which helped release some fairly big hitters in the games industry, like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, PUBG, Sea of Thieves, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Ark Survival Evolved, and of course, whether you love it or hate it, the new Unreal Engine flagship game, Fortnite. And still, a lot of these games are fairly different, although a lot of them are starting to use that hyper-realistic style, which then makes it harder to differentiate each of the games. But as I mentioned, Unity started picking up the pace, and developers started making games like Pokemon Go, Cuphead, Beat Saber, Untitled Goose Games, Nautica Rust, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, City Skylines, Hollow Knight, Escape from Tarkov, Metal Hellsinger, Gunfire Reborn, Night in the Woods, Slime Rancher, Outer Wilds, Krusty Road, and Superhot. Now, not all these games were huge AAA Bethesda, FromSoft, Ubisoft games with a huge marketing budget.
We just need money.
But they were all wildly different from one another, and yet all extremely good games in their own way. And if you haven't heard of some of these games, I'd heavily suggest checking some of them out. So Unreal had to have something to convince people to use their engine over all the other options. As in Unity's case, their selling point was that it's a lightweight application and easy to learn with its C# language. And on top of that, they had YouTubers like Brackies? And on top of that, they had YouTubers like Brackies who made it really easy for many people to get into game dev with his tutorials. A lot of people just got overwhelmed with Unreal Engine's heavy UI, its large download size, and the fact the documentation for Unreal Engine isn't really that clear and concise compared to the Unity documentation.
What the hell is even that?
But what Unreal did have going for it was its high quality visuals. With its material shaders graph editor, its effects engine, and its visual node-based scripting, which for me personally made it a lot easier to learn the engine. So they ended up marketing how you could make these high detail games using their amazing engine. And later down the line, they also marketed towards making movies using Unreal Engine, but my focus is game development, so I'm not gonna touch that. Now that we're pretty much caught up, if you're really wondering why you see Unreal Engine everywhere now, a lot of it is due to the fact that many AAA developers really love the idea of having these highly detailed, hyper-realistic looking games. And then with the release of Unreal Engine 5 and having one of the top 10 games in the world, Fortnite, showcasing the power of it with its new lighting engine called Lumen, which for sure allowed for easy real-time rendering with lighting, and its new system called Nanite, which, okay, how do I simplify this? Normally, you have what's called an LOD model, level of detail. When you make a model of something, you initially make multiple versions of that model. Maybe up to like 4 or 5, and each iteration gets less and less detail with less polygons. And so the further away the player is from the object, the engine will then apply the less detailed model. However, with Nanite, the engine will basically remove that step, automatically generating its own sort of LOD models, then lowering the detail of the model the further away you are from it, helping optimize the game without you having to do much work. So, I mean, overall, it sounds pretty good, right? It convinced a lot of other developers to switch over to Unreal Engine. For example, CD Projekt Red, the developers of The Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077. They made their games using their own in-house engine called the Red engine.
Why are you red?
Now, for their Witcher 4 game, which was announced at the Game Awards, and any future projects, it was announced that they'd be switching to Unreal Engine 5. Now, a downside I've seen a lot of people say about developers moving to Unreal Engine 5 is that all these games now just look and feel the same, because it's all just made on the same engine. And honestly, I don't entirely disagree. There are a lot of games that get released by these large AAA studios that just have the classic hyper-realistic look, and everything just has to be an open world game. But then it just ends up being an empty world with nothing to really do. Just sights to look at and go, ooh, ah, wow, that's such a cool, thing. However, there's still new games coming out every single day, and a large chunk of them are using Unreal Engine. Recently, we've had a bunch of other games released with unique gameplay and art styles that aren't just open world hyper-realistic games. More examples such as Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Multiverses, Unrecord, not Bodycam, Unrecord did it first, Remnant 2, Dark and Darker, the new Sonic Racing game, which is really impressive with how optimized it is, and many more games. A lot of people are under the impression that Unreal Engine is going to ruin the games market, and I don't really think it is. Recently, game engines like Godot have gotten huge among the game dev sphere, and even Brackies came back from the dead and is now starting to do tutorials on Godot. Now, Unreal Engine is a pretty good engine, and with the right developer, you can make some amazing things. Just remember that the game engine is a tool used to make the game. The final result is a product of the skills of the developer. So if the game is bad, maybe check where you're pointing your fingers. As a quick disclaimer, I'd like to add, in the case of AAA games, sometimes these developers are forced to do things by the suits up top. So again, you know, just check where you're pointing your fingers. To finish up this video, I just wanted to say thank you for making it all the way through. You're amazing, and if you did enjoy the video and have checked out some of my other videos, maybe if you liked it, consider liking and subscribing, as it helps grow the channel even more. We just recently made it over 10,000 subscribers, which is insane to me. Hopefully we can keep up that pace and get to 20k, baby. But I can only do that with your help. You can support the channel with something as simple as a sub, following my socials, joining the Discord, or if you're up for it, you can join my Patreon or YouTube membership for as low as $1 a month. But I need to stress this, please don't give any money if you can't afford it. Anyway, that's all from me for now, so bye bye!
Commander, what the f is a soy jack?